Well, good morning, everyone. It's so great to see you all. How are you doing?
Very good.
Awesome.
It's really good to have another roundtable this week. And this week we're talking about values. And in our little pre-show conversation, values is like a giant blanket that covers all human activity. So there's a lot of different directions we can take today's conversation. But we're so pleased that you're here watching with us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you found value in our conversation today. So we love having you here. We always start with a little bit of a slide and some funny memes, and then we'll be underway with our discussion. So here we go. And we'll go to present mode. Doo, doo, doo. Here we are. Values. So I like this graphic because there are some people who have different orientations, but they're kind of unspoken. It sort of drives their behavior. Do they value love or money or ideas or, things going in the right direction or being responsible with your spreadsheets? How are people living their values? And I have research that I'll share in the show notes with people who have different conversations about different areas of life, what values people have chosen. Maybe they were instilled as a child, or maybe they were selected in adulthood and now adhered to. So it is a wide ranging topic, but here's some common values: kindness and compassion, honesty and fairness, courage, love, and faith. In the research, some people will say that therapists can find people whose highest value is personal security or whose highest value is social conformity. And so there are a lot of different ways to look at people. I think the most important thing as we all get along together is to understand and live your own values and then find other people who share those. Birds of a feather. Okay, here we go. All right. For our fundiness, teamwork is a value. And so I have a little dragon boat honoring Brian and his years of crew. And
Oh, yeah.
they're all pulling together as a team out in the ocean. He used to practice at 4:30 in the morning in the Pacific Ocean off of San Francisco. I remember those mornings. Okay. So our first meme on the left, people lined up for pills and surgery, and people not lined up for lifestyle change. That bored fellow's reading a book instead of helping people choose that value. Okay, kind of a sad reflection, but it's solely accurate. And underneath, tradition, peer pressure from dead people. I've never heard it described that way. So if tradition and conformity are very important to you, you might rethink, is this peer pressure from dead people? And then at the end, thanks for being my friend, being friends with me. It's a questionable life choice, but I appreciate it. So thank you for making the questionable life choice of joining us this morning and talking about values. So Brian, can you kick us off? I think you have some ideas to share, and I'm so pleased we're all together this morning.
Yes, I can. We got the four of us. That's good. That's good. So values. So what I want to talk about is I feel like ultimately you have to orient yourself towards expansion or towards something that's more infinite or more endless with your values. And I'll talk about what I mean. So if you just have a value like, okay, don't steal. Okay, so you're not stealing. Okay, so now what? You know what I mean? Like, where do we go from here? Or if you have a value like, okay, don't cheat on your girlfriend. Okay, so you're not cheating. Okay, so now what? It's like there's this realization where you realize you have to be expanding, continuously going somewhere fresh and new. And I feel like this is one of the problems with religion is there's a lot of emphasis on like duties, and you almost have like the boredom of righteousness there. Like if you're just doing duties over and over because that's your value, like that's what you value, where is this going? At some point, your spirit has to be expanding. Otherwise, it sort of becomes meaningless, becomes dry. It's like barren, right?
Mm.
So, and I mean, I felt this in like hobbies I've had. It's almost like if I get to a point where I master it, then I get bored and then I don't want to do it anymore. There has to be some way you keep things fresh, you continuously expand. And I think that's true in relationships as well. I feel like Jonathan could talk about that. But um, so values are very good for keeping you out of trouble.
Mm.
Like society needs some values
Mhm.
so that we just don't get into total like crime and like total degeneracy and like just nothing works. Like you can't even go outside, someone's gonna mug you. Like so you need values to like protect you, to protect the whole society from basically turning bad, like to just keep everyone out of trouble. But in your own life, you have to find some sort of continuous expansion or continuous renewal or refreshing of your spirit. It's interesting. I saw a video with Andrew Tate recently where basically he said he's bored of banging girls. He's like bored of the money. He's like bored of fast cars. See, but those were all his previous values. Do you see what I'm saying? At a certain point, if you're not expanding, especially in spirit, it becomes death. It's just dead to you now. There has to be some way your consciousness, your spirit is expanding. So I'm suggesting we have to orient ourselves towards something that allows us to do that. Whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it's something new. It's like the human spirit always needs some new terrain that it's exploring, like some new horizon, some new expansion. And so, even if you have a good set of values, if you just master them, then it becomes dead to you. It's like boring because your spirit still needs growth. It needs something new to feel new life, to feel refreshed. Um, so that's kind of some things I would say about values. Let me see here. Artists, musicians go through this, right? Like they can't keep making the same album. I
Mhm.
mean, they have to get into some kind of new vibe with the music. Otherwise, it just feels dead. They have to kind of push to some new frontier somehow with lyrics or with the beat or with the instruments or the melodies. Something has to be um, going into something new. So, yes, I would say it always comes down to your spirit has to feel life somehow. Once something becomes dead to you, it doesn't really work. And I would actually say one thing that sort of proves this to me is when in our culture, when we talk to each other, here's something we never say. And I'll tell you why I think we never say this. We never say, how's your spirit?
Mm.
And I'll tell you why I think we never say that. That's just too close to home. That's too direct. That's too like, oh shit, like that's too direct. So we have to kind of beat around that bush to make each other feel comfortable. So we say, how's it going? Because that's so much lighter. It doesn't like really get to the core. Because the real core is how is your spirit? That's too direct. That really is the core of it. So that's why I like to talk about spiritual things because I feel like that's always getting at the core, even when we're talking about other things like values. So that's what I would say. And then the only other thing I would say is one thing you can think about doing is creating a hierarchy of values. So, like, what's your number one value? What's your number two? What's your number three? You know, that's a very simple way to like orient yourself in life and give yourself a compass where basically you know the general direction you want to go in. At least. Maybe you don't know specifics, but you know in general, like you want to be going this way because those are your top values. So that's what I would say. So I'm kicking it off. I'm kicking the ball over to someone else.
Excellent, excellent. Well, who would like to go next?
Jonathan.
Excellent. And your amazing shirt from where again?
I was about to say ladies first, but I can't resist.
Go for it, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I want to hear from you. And I know, Jonathan, your values, brought you to America, brought you to a life with broader frontiers and more possibility than, the life that you had with family in Mexico. And then you took a one-way trip to India because you're going to get to the bottom of your spiritual life. So you're someone who has definitely made life choices aligned with your values. You're walking your talk there, friend.
Uh, Tough decisions, yes. When it comes to values, I can only talk from my experience, okay? But values, for what I have experienced, there are a human. I was actually making a note
Mhm.
just in case I forget how I wanted to start. But values are human created. They're a human construct.
Mhm, mhm,
So the way I see it, creation slash God
mhm,
has no values. Like
mhm,
he doesn't care about killing all the humanity just to restart it again. Like he has no concerns about many things. So when you're in a human form, in order to function among other humans, let's say if they're blue or red humans, it's a good idea to have something in common. So that way you don't have to have a lot of extra friction. So values, I can see them as a lubricant.
mhm,
They are like oil in a machine.
mhm,
They
mhm,
can allow you to function in a very effortless way. You can go around, nobody's going to mess with you, you don't mess with them.
mhm,
And then they can change. So there is a variety. In the universe of values, there is a whole, like Brian was saying, there's hierarchies because some humans have certain values and then it goes like that, right?
mhm.
It is a great idea to have uh, some to discover. Actually, it is a great idea to explore yourself and discover what is it that you truly value the most. From there, you can go anywhere in the world and you will be actually fine. Even if you are a criminal, you'll be fine. Because once you know yourself, you're going to bend the rules of, like, the universe yields to you when you actually stand your ground. So if your values are set in such a way, it doesn't matter where you go, it it feels like everything works in your favor. Um, so values, like for me, for example, I have my values are very different from most humans, but at the core, they are actually friendly ones. So, for example, I value loyalty more than money, but I love money. It's just down on the scale.
Mhm.
Um, so, when I interact with other humans, I can only imagine there's no way they cannot feel that. Like, it's impossible, which is why it explains how I can have a conversation with somebody that has been in prison or with somebody that is like the at risk, let's say, for example. So
Mhm,
I can go, that's what I refer to values as a lubricant
mhm,
because they allow you to go through life in a very effortless way. And the more conscious you are about what is it that you personally value the most, because this is not like morality. I have there's no problem if you value money more than other things. That's fine, as long as you are consciously aware that that's what you value the most. Which is why some humans are like super extremely high achievers,
Mhm.
and some other ones are like, I value sleep more than hanging out with my friends on the Saturday night. So yeah, as long as you understand your values and when, and not when, but where does that value comes from? Because yes, it's true, you can always change it. Some values you acquire, actually most of them, you acquired from your relatives, your Uncle John, or if you're Mexican, your Uncle Juan, you know. So yes, it comes to a point where you observe yourself and then you see, this is what I value the most. Does it serve me? If it serves you, by all means, that is the highest thing that you value, and that's fine. And from there, you can you can avoid so many temptations. That's pretty much the next point that I wanted to communicate. Because we cannot talk about values without temptation. There is always going to be some kind of temptation that is going to be like, oh, this is what you believe in. Let's see how much you value it. And then the temptation comes. I can say that I have had some values in my past lives that were not so strong. So I can be the perfect example of not having my values in order. But that is the importance of actually being conscious of what do you consciously want to choose as your core values. Because then when temptation comes, it's actually quite effortless to be like, oh, no, thank you. So yes.
Very, very fascinating. Thank you so much. And I do appreciate that hierarchy perspective. And some people do conflate morality and values. And it's true that they expand over time. You're thinking about things. I think as you live life, I wanted to mention travel, and then Angela, I'd love to chat with you. I read an article about a young entrepreneur who was building something, and he was, I don't know what software he was inventing or an app on a phone or what it was, but his foreign born girlfriend said, oh, well, I'm totally going to help you with that. This is very exciting. And she went and found similar things on the web and said, I've done all this research. Now you have a head start. Like, just use all of this. And he said, oh, well, I can't. And she goes, why can't you? And he said, because we have intellectual property, we have IP rules here in America. And so it'd be considered theft. If I just pull it off the internet and I call it my own, it's theft. And she said, it can't be theft because it's on the internet for free. Like, it's not like it's at a store and it says pay $7 and you have to pay the $7. It's on the shelf for free. So how are you stealing it? So her cultural values from where she came from was like, if it's on the internet, it's free, just use it. It's available for everybody. And his was, no, that's IP theft. I have to come up with my own. I can use it to inform what I'm doing, but I have to do my own. And so she wasn't thinking, oh, it's okay to steal things. She didn't see it as stealing. And so, the different cultural values too, we find as we travel. So, hey, Angela, nice to see you here. I love your thoughts. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so it sounds like from what everyone's saying, there's kind of, we can put them into two categories. We have moral values, and then we have what we value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Personal.
So I think that when it comes down to it, if we can just kind of look at it that way.
Mhm.
I felt compelled to join this conversation today, not because I go around thinking about values all the time. Jonathan, you're so right. It's all about identity when you get down to it. It's like, how do humans identify themselves or have identity? And when it comes to spirituality, it's so neutral. There's no identity definition like that. So, and I agree with you about it being lubrication, because what happens is we just basically tend to adopt the values of our tribe, our family, whatever, our society, our culture, as you mentioned, Myrna. And so the question that came up for me when thinking about this topic and what compelled me to join you guys in this discussion was a little bit more woo-woo in nature, because it presupposes what Jonathan mentioned is that, there's a such thing as reincarnation in past lives, or that there's even a pre-life. So even if you haven't lived a lot of lifetimes, there's a pre-life, perhaps, where you're sitting there talking to some angels and figuring out, hey, what's this life going to be like? Let me lay it out. Let me make a plan and then plug in and just whatever, have those experiences for whatever those reasons are. And so, presupposing that, I am wondering if there is such a thing as values that aren't, you don't acquire them in this lifetime, that they're acquired and then stick with you, encoded in you, and you bring them with you from your pre-life or previous lives into this one. And the reason I ask that, or rhetorically like bring that up, is I remember one time having a conversation when I was a kid with my mom. I had a lot of deep conversations with my mother when I was a kid. I was a weird kid. I'm still weird, but there you go. And that weird that way. And one of the things that I was mentioning to her was how I was noticing how different I was from some of my friends, from other family members for that matter, and the way that I looked at life so differently. And I was just talking, I think, in general about some moral-based decisions I was making that wasn't popular with my friends, or whatever, the same that my friends were doing. And she said, I didn't teach you that. You came in with that. And it made me always wonder, like, you got a point. Maybe it's that lifetime when I was a Benedictine nun, and I was married to Jesus, and I studied, theological writings, because in those times, the only way you could read if you were a woman is if you were part of the church, right? And so therefore I got to be exposed to these other moral virtues or these concepts. Or maybe it was that lifetime when I was studying yogi with my mom. I remember being a wizened old guy in those kind of diapery things they wear, the little
Jody.
cloths, and we're, oming out, and we're doing our thing, and we're just these old guys doing this, So I know I've studied lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to get to the point where, whew, a lot of work, right? And so I'm wondering if the is it that I've brought those values in and have those memories that drives me, even since I was a young kid, to want to explore and grow and expand, like you were talking about, Brian? And is that just a value in itself? Or maybe it's both, right? The value that it is that I have is radical self-honesty, driving toward enlightenment, trying to get, the growth or whatever. So I'm wondering if that's really kind of just throwing it out there as a discussion point, that could we come in and if you think of it that way, if you say yes, like you think of this question and you're like, Angela, you're making a good point, and yes, I agree. What has gone before this lifetime has influenced me, whether again it was a previous life or a memory, like you're tying into the Akashic records and you're tapping into someone else's memory and you just somehow relate to that energetically, whatever it is, whatever that explanation is in your belief system. If you say yes, because I have felt like I haven't fit in to the tribe in these ways. I have like deliberately made choices that are things that I value more or differently than the others in the tribe or in the friend group or in the whatever, that make me go, well, maybe I'm choosing my identity versus being swept along. I remember one of the articles, and hopefully you'll share it in the links below, Myrna, in the video description, but there was one that you shared, and it was about the tribe and how we do, and they did studies that showed that people tend to not necessarily, they think I'm fixed, my values are fixed. And then the tribe changes, and it could be easily demonstrated with athletics, they say in the article. Like you're rooting for the team, and you're pissed off that the other team was cheating. But
Mhm.
if your guy on your team gets caught cheating, well, you can somehow make an excuse for that, and that shifts the value shifts, right? Because it's all about your team. And he was making the point that we tend to be influenced so heavily, and our identity tends to be influenced so heavily by the tribal input that if we can make those choices ourselves, it's because by the end of the article he says that, you make the choices. And, to be honest, my value ever since I can remember as a little kid has been empowerment, individual empowerment. You are a self-sovereign being. You're in charge of yourself. You make your own empowered choices. And I don't know where did I get that? Where did that come from? It
Mhm.
certainly wasn't the case in my home all the time. There was lots of control and power structure issues, and it was like a mess in my house, right? And I remember having a heated discussion with my father one time, and I'm a people pleaser, guys. I do not invoke arguments. I do not stand strong for things because I just feel like, let's just be peaceful and I'll have my point of view and you have your point of view. But I remember having a really strong discussion with him about his point of view on, things. And it was the opposite value of mine. So it makes me wonder if we do kind of come in with sort of some encoding. So I'm just throwing that out there for consideration if you guys wanted to give your
Yeah.
2 cents on it.
Well, I think values are expressed in so many different ways as we've discussed. And I recently I'll just share this thought and then we'll do another round. We have a business leaders podcast that's a playlist here. And I'll share the link for the video for Brian Cocodoulas, who's in the Philadelphia area. And his company is called Design Blends. And he shared that coming out of college, he decided he would focus primarily on values. And so there were 5 or 6 key values that if this person did not naturally adhere to those, they weren't a fit culturally in the company. And if he wanted a shot at growing his company in his way, that was the first pass or fail. And so he described someone, he just hired a very good gamer right out of college he has a architectural design business, but they design in 3D environments, which is what happens now that AI is everything. So this young gamer was very good, having spent many, many hours in 3D environments, killing things and building things and winning and losing. He didn't have architectural skills, but some of the architects that Brian had hired did not have 3D sort of understanding skills. And so, but the values were on point. So he said, I can teach him how to interface with the architects. And he has these 3D gaming skills. But if you don't have the values, I don't care how good you are at other things, you're not going to be a fit. And they've been in the top 100 companies in Philadelphia for the last 4 years. So he has a values first orientation about his hiring and managing his company culture. I heard another good story this week, and then we'll do another round from a fellow who runs a company called Golden Profits Group. And his family is Egyptian in ancestral lineage. He was raised in DC, now lives in Southern California. But his father, as an immigrant from Egypt and raising 2 boys, in the United States, wanted to be sure that the values of their family and their homeland stayed intact while he was raising a family in a foreign land in America. So he would tell the story when he and his brother, who were like 6 and 8, his father would be watching a movie on a VHS at family movie night. And his father would pause the tape and say, do you see what they're doing here? Do you think this is a good value? Are they doing the right thing here? He would use it as a chance to teach his boys, how he thought they should behave in the world and what are the choices that are being made here. And he said, we were 6 and 8. We just wanted to see, the hero win, or whatever we were watching. But it really stuck with him. And I asked him, okay, now that you're father and you have children, Do you stop the movie on family movie night and talk about the values? He goes, guilty as charged. I do it still. So, for some people, having a values-based orientation in the world is very important. And shaping and choosing those, I think can matter. Yeah, and understanding that people have different values. Sometimes they haven't even thought of them. Like, how is pulling something off the internet theft? It's free on the internet. Or, let's think about the choice that character just made. From dad instructing his young boys to be thinking about the life they're living and the choices they're making. So, well, hey, let's just open up. Who has other thoughts?
I would like to,
Yes.
oh,
Okay,
or
go.
yeah,
No,
before I
go for it.
forget, yes, I would like to jump in with what Angela was saying about, is there some value that we carry on from the
Mhm.
previous lives? And in my experience, the answer to that is yes. If you ever felt like a misfit in your family,
Mhm.
especially in your like nucleus family, it is an absolute yes.
Mhm.
Now, you can see that um, being born in this new environment, carrying your core values that you have chosen previously as like these ones, I know they're going to make me grow as a human being. You can see that as like the test of temptation because you are born in an environment where these other values, they're like, oh yeah, let's say for example you are born into wealth, and then in a kind of world that is not very like a, let's say like a criminal kind of world, and these new values, you if you decide to go by the new values that you are in this current lifetime, you're
Mhm.
going to be like everything is already set. Like you don't even have to lift a finger and you have everything, right? Like you don't have to work hard, you don't have to learn a new language, you don't have to go and
Mhm.
who knows what you're going to find, probably die and then like all these new things you don't have to worry about if you just go by like, oh, I was born this way, this is what my family nucleus values, like this is it. Like
Mhm.
so I see that as kind of like a test of like to awaken your true values of like what do you have chosen to believe
Mhm.
in your identity as a human. Because once you become spirit again, it doesn't really matter. But like as a human experience, what is it going to make you grow to experience new things? Like the something that is going to make you grow to such a degree that then you can see every single angle. So I see being born in an environment where everything is already set as a test. Because if you have everything, it's very easy if you do not remember your core values as a, and it happens, I have seen this happen mostly with humans when they're little kids. They start looking around and then they're like, okay, everything, like there's plenty of food, plenty of shelter. Perhaps there is a private plane waiting for them. I have heard some such stories. And then everything is already set. Like you don't have to do nothing, technically, right? But there's something inside of them that is like, no, I do not. It just does. It's not a match.
Mhm.
And then the whole journey starts, right? Like rediscovering what is it like why did you choose the ones that you chose in the first place, and it's like a whole journey, and I think that is actually like the beauty of it, because otherwise it will be just too boring. Like for example, for somebody that is born into like they have everything, why do they have to go through so much trouble to like why? Like, why does somebody? I understand for the ones that are born into like complete poverty, and but like the ones that have nothing to eat, it's easy to say that. Well, yeah, of course they want something different. But like, I have met humans that they have everything and more, and still there's something inside of them that tells them no. th- So that's why I see uh, family nucleus as a test
Mhm.
to test you And then from there, if you pass, I must add this, if you pass, you will be rewarded. So you shouldn't be scared. By all means, go through it. Yes.
Brian, you had some thoughts.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff there. Let me see. Okay, so getting back again to what Angela was saying, and then we'll see if we can, tie some stuff in here. Kind of the way I see it is it's like you're a statue, but you're also the sculptor,
Mhm.
right? So every time you have a new thought, that's like another chip, and you're re-sculpting yourself. Every time you have a new feeling, it's like another chip, and you're re-sculpting yourself. So then you can imagine doing that through many lifetimes, right? And where you're at now is sort of like the sum total of how you've sculpted yourself. So essentially that's always coming from us because we're the one like, hitting the chisel. But a lot of times there's pressure from the family or from the group. So we feel like, oh, I did it because of them.
Mhm.
But really you went along with them and then you chiseled yourself with it. So they suggested, hey, chisel yourself this way. And you were like, okay. And then you form into that kind of being or that kind of statue, right? So yeah, I
Especially
totally agree.
especially if you value belonging as a value.
Right, exactly, exactly. And that's so true, like how the values kind of function together that way. Like if you value belonging, that also means you're going to value other people's values over your own. So
Yep.
it's like a chain reaction.
Mhm.
Kind of also like in the sports example you brought up, it's like your hierarchy of values. If you value winning more than fairness,
Mhm.
then when your team gets away with something, you're like, oh no, I didn't see anything. It was good. It was good. But if you really have that much integrity where you value fairness more than winning,
Mhm.
that rare person will be the type to say, no, that was a penalty. Like,
Mhm.
let's play it fair.
Mhm.
So which value do you hold higher? That's the one that's going to get the green light in that situation. So, um, I definitely think there's pre-life, past lifetimes. There's so much evidence of it. A lot of people remember their past lives.
Mhm.
So we definitely have some sculpting that remains
Mhm.
from the past. Doesn't mean you can't re-sculpt yourself in this life,
Mhm.
but sometimes you have to work against what you sculpted before.
Mhm.
Like you added in a whole extra arm, and now you're like, no, no, I don't want that. Well, now you got to chisel that whole thing off. Um, so you have to work against your tendency there. I remember, I think it was in autobiography of a yogi. Uh, Yogananda said certain people have past life problems with like alcohol or with drugs. And the first few times they drink in this life, they're like, this is what I want to do. Like they're like getting hooked already. It's because they had so much sculpted of that of themselves before. They had so much addiction in their previous life.
Mhm.
Just a few simple triggers. They're like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm just gonna be drinking. Like there are stories like that.
Mhm.
That's totally a past life thing. Nobody
Mhm.
gets that way literally the first time they've ever drank in any life. Like, but if you have past life issues with that, it could happen. So
Mhm.
then they're gonna have to work that much harder,
Mhm.
to get past that. So yeah, that's what I would say. That's my thoughts on that.
Well, I'll chime in and say that, at a life design, we invite everyone to design their lives. And so Angela said, for some people, it's pretty obvious we're self-sovereign. For other people, people say, what does that even mean? Like, I do what I'm told and stay out of trouble. What are you talking about? So if you want to be designing your life, we're here to support that. Whatever design features you're trying to add or remove or refine, So, and as we have lived through lives and known a lot of people, having some kind of Venn diagram crossover about a value structure really helps people have harmonious relationships. If you think it's okay to cheat and you think it's okay to get ahead by cutting corners, people who really hate that are not, sharing a value structure. And that doesn't mean you're bad or wrong. It means those are not shared values. And it's a growth process as you become an adult to make this hierarchical decision, as Jonathan mentioned. My parents value this. Oh, so do I. My parents value this. Not so much. I have to make some of my own choices for the life I want to lead. They made decisions in the 50s, or they made decisions in the 30s, or they made decisions in 1989. And it's 2025, and I'm going to make a decision that's a fit for me now, which may or may not be 100% aligned with what these people who I value a relationship with. I don't have to mirror identically the values or the choices they made. You have a chance to design your life. So we encourage that. In fact, that's our topic next week, is how to design your life. So I'm looking forward to that. So let's do a final round. And, Brian, would you like to kick off our final round? Any final thoughts you have and how people get a hold of you?
Final thoughts. Let me come up with something extremely quickly. Um, yeah, sometimes your values can clash with others, right? That's one of the themes that, everyone's brought up here.
Mhm.
So, like, maybe your values clash with your parents when you're growing up, or with your brothers and sisters, or with your friends, or then with girlfriends, or in a marriage, or this or that. Yeah, and basically, in pretty much every single case, like, when you come to that point, you have to decide, like, what matters more to you, sticking with your values, or conceding to the group, or finding a way to kind of harmonize and sort of like make it kind of work where both parties can get as much as possible that they want. So it's like a very healthy compromise. Um, and I think that does come up, in all of our lives. And then as far as the issue of self-sovereignty, I think that that is a very good value for people to have. But I also think that sometimes that becomes dead, like in the sense of like Andrew Tate. So he was totally self-sovereign, right? Like all the women, all the cars, all the money.
Mhm.
You might come to a point where that doesn't do it for you anymore.
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, so maybe self-sovereignty isn't my highest value anymore. Or maybe I need to find a new form of self-sovereignty where I'm living my values or my dream in relation to some other kind of new value or some other kind of new thing. Um, but yeah, sometimes our values, they used to give us life and now they don't. Now it's like dead. Same with the whole thing with like, alcohol or drug addiction.
Mhm.
At a certain point along the journey, people felt like it was just so awesome. It was giving them life. It was so great. And then later on, they realize it's actually like death. It's killing me. It's ruining my life. Like it's not, I got to change values. Like it's not working anymore. So I would say always preserve your ability to change your values as you need or change your orientation, to life as you need to do it. Um, and sometimes things just have a expiration date.
Mhm.
Like sometimes desires have an expiration date. Like
Yeah.
you really wanted something, it fulfilled you for like 6 months or 3 months or a week or a year. And like now it's just not, it just doesn't do it for you anymore. So you have to be ready to orient yourself towards something new, a
Yeah.
new value, a new dream, a new desire, maybe
Mhm.
even a new way of being in the world. Um, something. So that's what I would say. So yeah, you can find me at alifedesign.org or Special K Coaching on Instagram.
Woohoo! Cool. Okay, Jonathan, are you up for going next?
I am actually.
Okay, cool.
I I couldn't agree more with what some of the things that Brian you just mentioned, which one of the things that got my attention and made me think about what my last thoughts were going to be is it is never too late to change or modify your values.
Mhm.
It is never too late. And you do not become a hypocrite by being 55 and changing your values. It's just that they don't serve you anymore. And you realize, which is a fair and a beautiful human experience, you realize that it just doesn't serve you anymore. So it is never too late to modify or change your values. It's actually a beautiful thing because that way you are actually being true to yourself. And that's when the external environment comes into play and wants to shame you, especially the closest ones to you. If they have known you for 55 years, they're going to be like, oh my God, she or he is such a hypocrite. He used to value this all his life, all her life. And now, all of a sudden, look at him, look at her. Oh my God, she switched so dramatically.
Mhm.
Hey, fuck off. No problem. If that is what you are true to yourself and that is what you feel in that moment, that is the greatest thing that you can go by all means stay true to what you value the most. No ethics, no problem. What you value the most is it's actually going to make you grow, and actually it is what is you are going to be more aligned with life because you are actually going to be living a very like a more rich life experience. And the last thought that I was thinking of is how values can get twisted by like society, like something that I have seen that society has twisted, and I see that it's hurting a lot of humans.
Mhm.
Is the way men have been brainwashed to value like love and companionship over respect.
Yes.
I think those values are twisted.
Mhm.
I think, in my experience, respect first,
Mhm.
then love, and then when it comes to like relationships,
Mhm. Mhm.
because that creates a beautiful dynamic. The
Yeah.
woman respects you, therefore she loves you,
Mhm.
and everything is great.
Mhm.
So if you're a man and you're out there wondering why women don't respect you, you're more than welcome to
To find you and
to
how do
find
they
some
find you?
help. Yeah, to find some help because then you will discover that it's not your fault. It's just the way uh, society has put this idea into you that you should be looking for some other things that are not the core ones, and it doesn't serve you. So if you ever felt like something is just missing or wrong, there's help. And if you don't like my style, there's Brian, there's other coaches. So yeah, that is my last thoughts. You can find me on alivedesign.org, also Jonathan R Coaching on Instagram, and via email jonathanrcoaching@gmail.com.
Wonderful. And I'll have all the contact information in the notes below. That's really lovely. Okay, Angela, you're on deck.
All right. Well, I just have two quick points to make. One is that I think the main theme that we're hearing in this whole conversation is that there's unconscious values and there's values you actually can choose. And I think that's the main thing is that you can choose what values you want. I love the idea of the sculpting. That was a great metaphor. And I'm going to so totally steal that, Brian. Because every once in a while, I teach a class at the University of Texas and to aspiring leaders and some experienced leaders. And we always start off the whole series of sessions that we do in this program with the question, tell me about the leaders and the traits that you admire about the leaders. Well, what we're getting down to is really what are the values and what do you value and what do you stand for?
Mhm.
And so in that discussion, that leads to, well, you're noticing who you admire and who you model yourself for are you actually choosing those values and those traits in the way you want to be a leader?
Mhm.
So we really, the whole point of that exercise is to make them consciously aware.
Mhm.
What are you doing and what do you choose
Mhm.
moving forward to be the kind of leader you want to be? And that's just about leadership, but I think that matters in all walks of your life. And then the second point I want to make is about, and then of course we've skirted around it, but we haven't said it directly, which is the fact that, and you mentioned it earlier, Myrna, when you were talking about companies making decisions to hire people on a values basis. And one of the things that I'm always wondering about and have always been curious about, because I come from the human resources background, the recruitment background from back in the day. And so it's always fascinating to me how people make those kinds of choices. But it
Mhm.
doesn't just apply to making values decisions to hire people and have a tribe of people doing something for a company and a business, but it also has to do with how you want to pick a mate or, how you want to get hooked up with someone. Like, do you share values with them? And if it's going to be a lasting relationship, do you share values with them? But here's the world I want to live in, and I hope that we are aspiring to
Take notes.
mention
Angela's world. Mhm.
in consciousness where we all, well, maybe there's no such thing as values in that because we're like, whatever, the identity, who cares about it? But wouldn't it be great if we could just allow people to have their values and just respect their values and coexist with them with their different values?
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be great? And
Mhm.
it's just a recognition now. People will have to be self-aware enough to be able to express what their values are, or to portray what their values are, or to recognize the values that other people have and where those differences are so they can then understand, oh, I value X and this person values Y. That's so totally cool. I still really like that person. I want to hang out with that person. I
Mhm.
want to be with that person. I want to build a life with that person. I want to raise kids with that person, whatever it is, right? And the thing is it's okay, but it really requires a heightened level of consciousness, awareness, conscious decisions. Well, wouldn't that be a world if we could live in that? That's my final thoughts. As far as how you can reach me, I'm officially the COO of A Life Design. So you can always find me on alifedesign.org.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I have my own business and other things I'm doing. And look me up there if you're interested in
We'll
connecting.
put those links, yeah, in the description. That's exciting. Well, I was thinking as everybody was talking, as people that support people in their lives. So whether we do it on a consulting basis or coaching basis, people come to us and say, this thing has been working, it's not working anymore. I wanted this and I have it, like Andrew Tate, and I don't care anymore. I've had enough sex with enough women. I fathered 10 children. It turns out there might be more to life than fast cars and hot women. It turns out, maybe. And I'm coming to grips with living differently.
Mhm.
And so, but I think of things as seasons. If you're a farmer and you primarily plant wheat, your land will tell you you get 5 good growing seasons, and then this section has to lie fallow for 2 years. Or you could grow soybeans for 2 years and then give it a year off and then come back to the wheat. So things happen in cycles in nature, the way the world is created. And I think we live in cycles too. I always think about, and I think it was Mark Twain, Angela, I don't know if you know, but that saying that, I always thought that my father was one of the dumbest guys around. And then when I turned 18, I realized he'd learned a lot. It's not the father that learned a lot. It's the son who's finally recognizing, facing an adult world, dad's pretty good at adulting, which I did not value as a child. And now that I'm looking at having to be an adult myself, he's pretty good at the adult part of this. So I think, we value raising children and then the children get raised. And now what do we value with our time? How do we want to be making a contribution? What fills our cup now that our children are raised, or that the 30-year career that we so enjoyed is now complete? What are we valuing now? So it's a natural component that in the person's life cycles will bring change, but you can design those changes. And we help you do that. You can be deliberate if you want to. And it's okay if it worked for a while and it doesn't work anymore. It wasn't wrong. It was right then. and something else is going to be right now and for the future. So helping you point into that direction is part of what working with the people at Alive Design can do. I want to mention it's challenge season. We have 4 new challenges that are pretty fun, and we're going to put those links in the description. And we're excited that you joined us today. So until next time, thanks so much for being here.